First story. My ungrateful son overheard me saying, "I don't love him like I love my new wife," and abandoned me. So I demanded he come back for his stepmom's birthday, told him to move on from his breakup when he sulked, and then forced him to stay in my house for my new wife. I now regret my actions so goddamn much. Throwaway. Long post. Just trying to make sense of things and maybe see what Reddit thinks. I 52M have a son 23M who graduated college last year and moved out on his own shortly after. My wife 47F, and I helped him with everything: tuition, rent during college, his car, internships, and even some job applications when he asked. We've always been supportive and present and given him space when needed. I wouldn't say we were strict parents, but we had expectations. He had chores, and we expected decent grades, respect, and the usual. Nothing unreasonable. We never laid hands on him, rarely raised our voices. Still, there was always this undercurrent of distance. He was never a warm kid. Smart, independent, quiet. We chalked it up to personality. He wasn't rebellious or dramatic, but he wasn't affectionate either. I'd try to get some quality time with him, offer to take him to lunch, watch a game, or go on hikes, and he'd usually decline. My wife and I both felt it, but we figured once he matured, he'd come around more. Well, he hasn't. If anything, he's grown colder. After graduation, he got a good job and got his own apartment about 30 minutes away, and since then, he's been more or less Mia. No big fight. No fallout. He just disengaged. We'd reach out to him maybe every few weeks, send texts, and sometimes call. Occasionally he'd respond. He never picked up my calls unless I texted first. It got to the point where we'd go months without hearing from him unless we initiated. And even then, they were short replies. "I'm good. Work's busy. Hope you guys are okay." No follow-ups. There was no genuine dialogue. We never pushed too hard. We didn't want to guilt trip him. We figured he's adjusting to adult life, and maybe he'd reconnect on his own once things settled. My wife, especially, was hurt. She's always been the more emotional one. She'd try not to show it, but I could tell it stung. There were holidays when he only showed up for a couple of hours. Birthdays where he'd just send a generic text. I once brought it up with him gently, saying we missed seeing him more often, and he just said, "I'm really busy, Dad." That's it. Now for some background that might matter. There have been a few moments in the past that clearly bothered him, though at the time we didn't think they were major. Like once, when he was around 16, he got into a huge argument with us because we missed his school debate tournament due to a family emergency. My father was hospitalized. He won the debate, and we congratulated him afterwards, but he stayed cold and told us it was a pattern of us not showing up for him. My wife and I were floored. We'd been to every parent-teacher night, every event we could. But that one time, it was like a switch flipped. He stopped inviting us to things after that. Another time, I remember we were having dinner with some family friends when he was about 14. One of them made a joke about helicopter parents, and I casually laughed and said something like, "Well, we try not to smother him. He pretty much does his own thing and prefers it that way." He got weirdly quiet after that. When I asked later what was wrong, he said I always talk about him like a project instead of a person. I didn't even know what to say to that. There were little moments like that. Looking back, maybe it added up for him. But we were never cruel. Never abusive. We thought we were doing the best we could. And until this week, I never thought he resented us. Anyway, fast forward to 2 days ago, which was my wife's birthday. She didn't get a text. No call. No visit. Nothing. She tried to play it cool and said he probably just forgot. But I could tell it hurt her deeply. This is the same woman who used to make birthday scrapbooks for him every year until he was 18. Who hand-packed care packages for him every month during college. And now, not even a call. So I decided to reach out. Not to scold him, but just to remind him gently. I called, and he actually picked up, which surprised me. I said, "Hey buddy, you missed your stepmom's birthday." He immediately apologized and said work had been hectic, and he lost track of the date. He asked me to tell her happy birthday on his behalf. I said sure, but also added, "It would be nice if you could visit us soon. We miss you." That's when he snapped. He said, and I'm quoting, "You guys need to understand that I have my own life now. You have your lives. I don't owe you weekly check-ins or surprise visits just because we're family." I was stunned. I told him, "Look, I get that. You're an adult. But we're still your parents, and we'd like to keep some closeness. That's not a crime." Then he said something that genuinely shocked me. He said, "I don't want a close relationship with you. I'm tired of feeling guilty for not wanting something I never had. I asked what the hell he meant by that. And then, out of nowhere, he brought up something from over a decade ago. He said, "When I was 10, I overheard you telling stepmom that you loved each other more than you loved me." I had zero idea what he was talking about. So I asked him what he meant. And he said there was a night when we thought he was asleep. And we were talking in the kitchen about relationships and parenting. At some point, I supposedly said, "Even though I love him a lot, I love you the most." And that my wife agreed. He said that one comment stuck with him for years. That it changed the way he saw us. That even when we did nice things, it felt like we were doing it out of obligation. Not because we truly valued him. I honestly didn't know how to respond. I told him I had no memory of saying that. That maybe he misheard. Or maybe it was taken out of context. But he cut me off and said it didn't matter, it sounded true then. And it still feels true now. I told him, even if I did say that, there's nothing wrong with it. I said it doesn't mean we love him any less. I love my wife, she's my partner. We built our life together. That doesn't diminish our love for him. People in strong marriages say things like that all the time. It doesn't mean they neglect their kids. He said, I was proving his point that I was always more focused on my relationship than on being a father. He accused me of minimizing his feelings. I told him, "You're acting like a self-centered brat. You've built this entire narrative around one overheard line when you were 10, and you've let it dictate how you treat us for over a decade." That's when he told me to go to hell and hung up. Told my wife, and she said I shouldn't have called him a brat. I told her I wasn't going to sugarcoat it, he was being one. We've bent over backwards to support him, and the second he gains independence, he treats us like we're clingy strangers. She thinks we should give him time. I think he's had plenty. This didn't come out of nowhere, this has been years in the making. He never really wanted to be part of this family. He kept us at arm's length since high school, showed up when it was convenient, and left the second he could. And now that we're just asking for some basic respect and presence, not money, not favors, not moving back in just a visit every now and then or a damn phone call, he tells us he doesn't want a relationship. And let's be honest, he's not some confused teen figuring himself out. He's an adult who made a choice to cut ties over a 10-second comment that might not have even happened the way he remembers. He's an adult who decided to ghost his parents because we weren't emotionally packaged the way he wanted. And if that makes me sound cold, fine, but I'm not the one who forgot my mother's birthday and then doubled down on why I don't want to be around my own family. To me, this sounds like a kid who's bitter because we weren't perfect. Guess what? Nobody is. We provided everything, supported every path he chose, and never pressured him to follow ours. But apparently, one flawed moment when he was 10 invalidates all of that. Apparently, one overheard sentence means his parents are unworthy of a relationship. I'm not going to apologize for calling him out. And I'm not going to grovel just because he's decided to rewrite our entire family history, based on his personal grievances. He wants to play victim because we weren't emotional enough, warm enough, or available enough. But he never once communicated that until now. He just silently pulled away for years, then exploded the second we asked for a simple visit. So now I'm the bad guy because I finally pushed back. I've read enough of these posts to know people will say, maybe he's dealing with something. Maybe you should have been more emotionally in tune. Maybe. But what I see is a grown man who doesn't want a relationship with the people who raised him, and who thinks he's justified because of some ancient comment. And that's supposed to be our fault. My wife still wants to try and repair things. But I'm not going to keep begging for scraps of affection from someone who clearly doesn't want us in his life. I love him. Always will. But I'm done chasing him down like a deadbeat dad when we've been nothing but supportive. He wants space? Fine. He's got it. Ada. Comments. Comment 1. YTA. You're acting like this was just about one sentence, when in reality, that sentence was probably just the moment the curtain got pulled back for him. You've got decades of distance with your kid, and you still don't see it. A child doesn't carry a comment like that into adulthood, unless the relationship already felt emotionally shaky. And yeah, you keep saying you don't remember saying it. Cool. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Memory isn't a get-out-of-jail card. More importantly, you didn't even try to address what it meant to him. You just launched into defensiveness and insults. You didn't ask him how it made him feel. You didn't say, I'm sorry you felt that way. You didn't say anything that sounded like empathy. And this whole, we gave him everything line, stop. Kids don't owe you closeness because you paid for tuition. Parenting isn't a transaction. He didn't ask to be born, you chose to raise him. And you clearly missed his emotional needs along the way. You're not asking for connection. You're demanding compliance. Then you call him names when he doesn't give it to you. That's not how healthy adult relationships work, especially between parents and children. Comment 2. YTA. Not because you wanted a relationship with your son that's normal, but because you don't actually seem to want him, just the version of him you had in your head. The one who calls home every Sunday, drops by with a six-pack to watch football, gives you grandkids by 30, whatever. But that's not who he is. You've spent the entire post trying to justify your own worldview instead of trying to understand his. You keep saying you supported him and gave him everything. But emotional support isn't just tuition and birthday cakes. It's also validating feelings you don't agree with, and not dismissing something that clearly impacted him just because you think it's minor. You're basically telling him, your trauma doesn't count because I don't remember causing it. And for the record, telling a kid you love your spouse more than them, even indirectly, does leave a scar. Kids don't have adult brains. They don't get nuance. They just hear, you come second. And instead of saying, damn, I didn't realize that hurt you. I'm sorry you carried that for so long. You doubled down, called him a brat, and then acted shocked he hung up. All he did was ask for space and honesty. You gave him guilt and insults. Comment 3. YTA. Let me guess you were the stable provider parent. Practical. Hands off. Proud of being logical and non-emotional, right? The kind of dad who's there physically, but doesn't really sit with his kids' feelings or ask questions unless something's broken. What your son remembers isn't just the "I love your stepmom more" line. He remembers how it felt true, that it explained everything. The disinterest. The emotional detachment. The performative support. And then when he finally tells you something that's clearly been eating at him for years, what do? Dismiss it, defend yourself, call him a brat. That's not just missing the point, it's stomping on it. You can't even fake introspection. You're pissed that he doesn't act like a grateful, devoted son. But what have you done to earn that? Love is not an inheritance. It doesn't get passed down because you stayed married or signed tuition checks. He didn't feel prioritized. He didn't feel emotionally safe. That has consequences. You've spent this whole post listing what you gave him. But not once did you ask yourself what you might have missed. That's the difference between a parent who loves their kid and one who just wants credit for trying. Update. So, it's been a few weeks. Didn't think I'd be back here, but people wanted an update. I also want to clarify a few things, because clearly some people think I'm Satan for wanting my son to stay in touch. After that phone call where he told me to go to hell, we didn't hear from him. My wife texted him a couple of times. No response. I didn't bother, figured he needed time to cool off. Then last week, I found out from a mutual family friend that he's been going through a breakup. He was apparently in a serious relationship, but they broke up a few months ago, and he's still grieving. That was the term used. Honestly, I don't get it. Breakups suck, sure, but welcome to adult life. I'm sorry he's hurting, really. I am, but that's not a free pass to ghost your parents for months and act like a victim when someone asks you to remember their mother's birthday. He lives half an hour away. If he was struggling, he could have come to us. We have a guest room, we cook meals, and we're not exactly monsters. So, I figured maybe he just needs a nudge. I went ahead and sent him an early birthday card. His birthday's next month, with a note inside. Nothing mean, nothing dramatic. Just thought I'd get this out of the way early, since remembering dates seems to be a challenge lately. Hope you're well. Maybe this year we can actually see each other. Not my finest moment, but also not cruel. No response. Then I made what I thought was a fair move. I emailed him. Found this article called "Why Estranged Adult Children Often Regret Cutting Off Their Parents," and sent it to him with a simple subject. Worth a read. I didn't write a long message. Just added, not saying this is you, but it resonated. Again, no reply. My wife asked me to let it go. I told her no, I'm not going to sit around and wait for him to decide whether we get to be in his life or not. That's not how this works. We raised him. We were there. We deserve more than silence. So I told her I was driving over. Not to ambush him, just to talk. She didn't agree, but didn't stop me. So we drove down. Brought some food. I figured we'd catch him at home, maybe talk on the porch, nothing heavy. He opened the door, saw us, and immediately looked annoyed. No, hi, no, what's going on? Nothing. Just stood there like we were Jehovah's Witnesses. I said, hey, can we come in for a bit? Brought some dinner. He said, no, I'm busy. I told him it wouldn't take long. My wife chimed in and asked nicely if we could just talk for a few minutes. He let us in. But he was cold. Didn't offer us a seat. Didn't ask what we brought, just stood there waiting. I started by asking how he was doing. He said, "Fine." I said, "Look, I heard about your breakup. I'm sorry. That sucks. But we're still your family. You should have come to us." He looked at me like I'd just insulted his dog. He said, "Why would I come to you for help? You barely even listen when I talk." That's when I got annoyed again. I told him, "You've been pushing your family away for years. You keep saying we weren't emotionally available, but you never gave us the chance. And now that things are rough, you isolate yourself and act like we're the problem." He didn't answer, just looked exhausted. I went on. I said, "You're not being fair. You're acting weird, shutting people out, and refusing to admit how ungrateful you're being. Your stepmom was hurt. You didn't even apologize for missing her birthday. You should apologize to her. And to me." He shook his head and said, "I don't owe anyone an apology for protecting my peace." I told him, "No one's asking for blood. We're asking for a little effort. You live 30 minutes away. You could have picked up the phone. You could have come home once in a while. We're not strangers." Then I told him I had an idea. "Why don't you come stay with us for a few weeks? Just to reset things. Get some space from this place. We talk things out, rebuild." He laughed and said, "You want me to move back in like I'm grounded?" I said, "Not grounded. Reconnecting. It'd show you're serious about fixing this." He said, "You showed up uninvited, started another fight, and now you're telling me to apologize and move in. Get out." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He told us both to leave. Point blank. My wife didn't argue. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked out. I followed, but not before I said, "You'll regret this one day." His response, "Maybe, but not today." Back in the car, I asked my wife, "Can you believe that?" And she said, "Yes, and I think this is mostly your fault." That shut me up. She said, "I never once asked how he felt without judging or lecturing." She said I bulldozed every attempt he ever made to open up and acted like being a provider was enough. She said I didn't show up to talk. I showed up to demand. We haven't really talked since. I'm still pissed. I don't think I said anything wrong. I told him some hard truths. But apparently, that's not allowed anymore. Apparently, honesty is cruelty now. So that's where we are. My son told me and his mother to leave his house. My wife blames me. I haven't heard from either of them in days. But sure, I'm the arsehole. Comment 1. So much to unpack here. You're a walking case study in, I did my job. Why don't I get a trophy? YTA, obviously, but not for wanting a relationship, for failing to see how much damage you've done by how you're demanding it. You keep score like a banker. We raised him, gave him food, paid for school, helped him get a job. Cool. That's the baseline. That's what parents do. That doesn't entitle you to emotional intimacy when you clearly never built it. Also, let's talk about the house visit. You brought food and your wife as if this was some social drop-in, then got offended when he didn't want a reunion dinner. The man's grieving. He's not going to suddenly become emotionally available because you rang the bell with takeout. And the move-in suggestion. Holy SHT. Come live with us to fix this. You think reconnection happens through proximity. This is why he left in the first place. You don't see him, you try to manage him like a broken appliance. Comment 2. This update just confirms everything I suspected. You don't want a relationship with your son, you want compliance. You want the smiling family portrait, an obedient adult child who calls on holidays, visits when summoned, and nods while you talk. Instead, you got a man who finally told you how badly he's been hurting since childhood, and your response was to bring him food and ask for an apology. Let's go there. You accused him of being weird, said he was shutting people out, and implied he owed you an apology for his pain. You showed up during an emotional crisis and made it about your feelings. Do you even realize how F-ed that is? Also, props to your wife. She's clearly reached her limit. She saw her son hurting and her husband making it worse and decided she wasn't going to enable it. You want to fix this. Stop trying to win. Start listening. But I don't think you actually want to fix it. I think you just want to be right. Comment 3. Holy hell, YTA. You didn't just fumble this, you torched the field and blamed the smoke on your son. You're not a parent trying to reconnect. You're a guy demanding access because you think fatherhood comes with lifelong access rights. The birthday jab in the card. The article email. The unannounced visit. You're not being sincere, you're being manipulative. That's why your son doesn't feel safe around you. And then, knowing he's in the middle of a breakup, you show up and immediately start talking about how you feel and what he owes you. You don't care about how he's doing, you care that he didn't prioritize you while grieving. Also, asking him to move back in like it's some punishment camp. Bro, what emotionally bankrupt Hallmark dad move was that? Your wife didn't take your side because she's probably tired of defending your brick wall of a personality. You didn't just lose your son. You're actively making sure the door stays closed. Update. I've had a lot of time to sit with this. And before I get into it, I want to say something up front. I was wrong. About a lot. About my son, my wife, and how I handled the whole damn situation. I see that now. It started a few days after the last update, after he kicked us out of his place. My wife hadn't spoken much to me since, and I caught her crying in our room when she thought I was out back. She was on the phone, I'm guessing with her sister, and I heard her say, "He was the only child I'll ever have, and now he's gone. And the man I married made it worse." That hit hard. I've always known she couldn't have children biologically. It was something we faced early in our marriage, and when my son from my previous relationship came to live with us full-time at 5 years old, she poured everything into him. Never once treated him like a step anything. She did his bedtime stories, doctor's appointments, school events, late-night talks, everything. And for her to say she'd lost her only child because of me, that cracked something open in me. Around that same time, I was organizing the garage and came across an old box of drawings and little notes my son made when he was younger. One of them, I must have forgotten this, was a card he made for her in elementary school. It said, "Thank you for being my best mom." Not stepmom, just mom. And it hit me. Somewhere along the line, I stopped seeing him as that little boy who once trusted us so deeply. I started seeing him as this cold, distant adult, and I met that coldness with pressure and guilt instead of care and understanding. I started thinking more about how we even got here. And the uncomfortable truth is, I've done this before. Not this exact thing, but this emotional shutdown. I haven't talked to my own brother in 12 years. My father and I barely spoke before he died. And I've always told myself those were other people's fault, that they were weak, dramatic, or unreasonable. Now I'm wondering if I was just like this all along. Then I found out his ex-girlfriend to solve their issue. So yeah, I tracked her down. Not in a creepy way. Just found her Instagram through a tagged photo. Realized she worked at a small bakery, not far from where my son lives, and I walked in one morning. I told her who I was. I expected her to ignore me or kick me out, but she didn't. She sat down with me before her shift, and she told me the truth. That my son had been struggling for months. That the breakup wasn't mutual, she left. That he'd been seeing someone about his mental health, but had stopped going. That the pressure from family, especially me, made him feel like he could never just be himself without being judged or dismissed. She also said something that gutted me. "He used to tell me your approval felt like a currency he could never earn." I didn't even know how to respond to that. Because she was right. I treated closeness like a transaction. You visit, you call, you show up on holidays, and if you don't, I assume you don't care. I never considered he was pulling away to protect himself, or that he was hurting long before he ever said a word. He's blocked me now. Phone, email, even at his workplace, they told me he left instructions not to take calls or visitors from me. I've lost him. Fully. And I deserve that. But my wife hasn't. She's writing him a letter. No pressure. No, come home talk. Just love. And if he answers her and not me, I'll live with that. Because she earned his love every damn day. I'm trying to earn mine back. I've started therapy not because my wife begged me, though she did, but because I need to understand why I always go on the offensive when someone I love pulls away. I don't want to be the man who turns every relationship into a war zone. And I want to say something to the people who commented on my original posts, even the ones who tore into me. Especially them. You were right. I was so locked into being right that I couldn't see I was just being loud. Every harsh thing I said, every guilt trip, every demand to be seen, all it did was push my son further. He wasn't a brat. He was a hurt kid who turned into a hurting adult. And I treated his pain like disrespect. If I could go back to that call, the one where he brought up that comment he overheard at 10, I'd just shut my damn mouth and say, "I didn't know it hurt you that much. I'm sorry." That's all he needed. That's all he ever needed. I don't know if he'll ever come back. But I'll be here if he does. And if he never does, I hope he finds peace with or without me. That's the update. Thanks to everyone who helped me see what I couldn't. Comments. Comment 1. There's a part of me that wants to rip into you for how long it took to get here. But honestly, this is the first time your words didn't feel like a performance. You finally sound like a guy who lost something real and understands why. Your story hit me hard because I'm the daughter of a dad like you. Quiet, a provider, always there, but never present. Everything was a checklist. School, check. Roof, check. Love, maybe, but it never reached me in a way that felt safe. When I tried to talk about that stuff as an adult, I got a lecture or silence. So yeah, I cut him off. And it broke him. I'm not saying your son will come back. But if he ever does, don't show up with proof you've changed. Don't send articles. Don't drop in with food. Just show up as a man who can say, I don't know everything, but I love you, even when I F it up. That's it. That's the whole job. I hope you keep doing the work. And I hope your wife finds peace, whether your son returns or not. Because she deserved better through all of this too. Comment 2. This is the first time I've seen someone on this sub do what I call the full mirror turn, where instead of just apologizing, they actually looked at who they were and went, damn, I don't like that guy. That takes guts. But let me be real with you. This regret you're feeling. This is the start of the work, not the end. You spent decades communicating through guilt and expectation instead of vulnerability. That's not a character flaw. It's a learned behavior, but it wrecked your connection with your kid. Your son is wounded, and he's not obligated to come back just because you're finally bleeding too. Healing isn't about dragging him back into the house to fix what you broke. It's about making sure that if he ever does look your way again, he sees a father who learned how to love without strings attached. So keep going to therapy. Listen more than you speak. And maybe, for once, sit in the silence without trying to fix it with a quote, a card, or a damn link. Let your wife grieve too. You're both mourning a version of family that never really existed. Now's the time to build a new one, even if it's just the two of you for now. Update. I'm not sure why I'm writing this. Maybe habit. Maybe guilt. Maybe because this is the only place where I ever actually said the truth out loud. I don't know if I'll ever log in again after posting this, but I guess this is the last update I'll make. After my last post, I tried something big, something I thought would show my son I was serious about changing. Not a manipulative stunt. Not a guilt trip. Just something that meant something. My therapist suggested I find a gesture that represented repair without expectation. Something symbolic but honest. So I rebuilt his old childhood desk, the one he used for homework. The one covered in stickers he collected at 7, 8, and 9 years old. It had been rotting in the garage for years. I sanded it, refinished it, and restored every detail. I even reprinted some of the stickers that had peeled off. I left it on his porch with a short handwritten note. I'm working on becoming a man. I hope you can forgive me one day. No pressure. No timeline. I just wanted to return something that mattered to you. You deserved better from me. He didn't respond. I didn't expect him to. But 2 days later, his stepmom got a text from him. A single sentence. Please tell him to stop. He's not ready for this. He told my wife that the gesture overwhelmed him. Not in a bad way, just too much too soon. Apparently, he had driven the desk to a storage unit the same night because he couldn't look at it without feeling everything at once. I don't know what everything means, but I know it wasn't good. I didn't reach out again. I took the advice the support group gave me. Stop flooding him with emotion and space, and stop trying to accelerate healing. Just sit with the silence and let him come to you when he can. I joined that group after my therapist recommended it, a circle of parents dealing with estrangement. A depressing group, honestly, but also the first place where I wasn't defensive. Some people had children gone for 20 years. Some had reconnected. Some never did. A few told me, bluntly, that I needed to drop the fantasy of a perfect reconciliation scene. That real reconnection is slow, boring, and incremental. Not an apology. Not a grand gesture. Just sitting across from someone without expecting them to fill your need. I was trying. Slowly. Messily. Then everything stopped. It happened last week. His ex showed up at our front door. She knocked. My wife answered. I heard my wife gasp like someone hit her with a truck. I came to the door, and I'll never forget the look on the girl's face. She wasn't crying, she was beyond crying. Hollow. She asked if she could come in. We sat. She kept her hands in her lap the whole time, twisting a ring around her finger. She said my son was dead. A car accident. Late at night. No alcohol. No drugs. They think he fell asleep at the wheel or drifted off mentally and didn't correct in time. He died instantly. His ex said the police found his phone in the passenger seat. No last text. No call. Nothing. I waited for her to say, "He's in surgery," or "He's critical," or "There's a chance," or even "This might be a mistake." She didn't. My wife collapsed. Completely. She hit the floor and couldn't get back up. I had to help her into a chair. I've never seen someone break like that. She wasn't crying like a grieving mother. She was wailing like a wounded animal. My chest hurt listening to her. I didn't cry at first. I just sat there staring at the rug, feeling like I'd been hollowed out from the inside. It wasn't shock. It was this sharp, surgical awareness that every hope I had been clinging to, therapy, letters, slow repair, a possible future, was gone. Just gone. In a single sentence. His ex told us he'd been exhausted for months, barely sleeping. Work pressure. The breakup. Therapy he kept skipping. She said she was worried about him driving at night. She didn't say he crashed because of me. She didn't have to. I blamed myself anyway. He never saw the finished version of me. He saw the worst version. The version that demanded, lectured, pressured, and pushed. The version I finally started trying to fix showed up too late. My wife told me 2 days after the funeral that she's leaving. She's staying with her sister. She doesn't blame me out loud, but she doesn't have to. She lost her only child, and she loved him better than I ever did. The house is silent now. Not peaceful silent, dead silent. I wake up, sit in the kitchen with cold coffee, and stare at the chair he always avoided sitting in. I keep thinking about the last look he gave me when he told me to leave his house. I keep thinking maybe if I hadn't shown up that day, maybe if I hadn't pushed him again, he would have come home eventually. Maybe he would have slept instead of driving. Maybe he would have felt supported enough to ask for help. I know I'm reaching. I know grief invents alternate realities. But I can't stop thinking about every tiny choice I made that nudged him further away. I thought parents had endless time to fix things. Turns out sometimes you don't get a second chance. Sometimes you get a voicemail you'll never receive and a funeral you never imagined. I don't know what to do now. I'm still going to therapy because it's the only place I can talk without falling apart. I'm still going to the support group, even though almost no one there knows what to say to me anymore. My wife and I talk through short texts. She's hurting. I'm hurting. We're not helping each other. If there's a lesson here, I don't know what it is. I don't have advice. I don't have a moral. I don't have a plan. I'm surviving. That's all. I don't know if I'll ever log back into this account again. Comments. Comment 1. I lost my brother to self-harm 5 years ago. Your post pulled something out of me I thought I'd buried. You remind me of my dad. He wasn't cruel. He just didn't know how to speak feelings that didn't come in the shape of disappointment or advice. And when my brother shut down, my dad thought space was disrespect. So he pushed. Pushed until there was nowhere to push anymore. I say this with zero malice. You sound like a man who learned love through discipline, loyalty, and showing up. That's not nothing. But it's not enough when someone needs to feel like they matter. Not just be told. And now you're grieving a version of your son you never got to meet. That's grief on top of grief. And it's effing brutal. Don't waste it. Mourn him. But don't make your regret your only identity. You've still got your wife. And you've still got the power to make sure you never leave another room wondering if someone knows they were loved. Comment 2. This one effing hurt to read. Not because you were the worst father ever. Honestly, I've seen worse. But because you finally started turning the corner, finally started doing the hard, ugly, internal work, and life didn't wait for you to finish. That's what makes this update unbearable. You got there. Just not in time. You said grief invents alternate realities. Yeah, it does. But so does hope. Hope let you believe you could repair a decade of distance in one gesture, one conversation. But repair doesn't work that way. It's slow, uneven, messy as hell. And now you're left holding pieces you never got to hand him. That's the effing tragedy here. As for blame, man, stop twisting the knife. You didn't kill your son. Life just doesn't hand out warnings. Sometimes it just takes. What you can do now is keep honoring the version of yourself you were finally becoming. Because that man, the one who rebuilt the desk, who listened without needing a reply, that's who he might have come back to. If time had allowed, take care of your wife. She loved him completely. Now she needs to be loved the same way. Second story. Entitled Husband Planned to Cheat on a Trip I planned and paid for. So I kicked him out of my house. Now he wants half of the house. He didn't pay a cent. Hi everyone. I've been reading these stories for years. I never thought I'd be the one to post. I'm sorry for the too long message. It's harder than I thought to edit. And I don't want to sanitize my words with ChatGPT. I'm 32F, and my husband is 36M. We've been married for 2 years and together for 9. And up until yesterday, I thought we were genuinely happy together. A bit of context. We have this thing where I change my name to random things on his phone every few months. They're always funny and well over the top. The last one was something like perfect human form. It's just a joke that's gone on for a few years. So, yesterday, he was in the shower, and his work phone was out. So I changed my name in his contacts. As I did so, a notification for Snapchat came through with an image and the name of a woman he knew back home. He's from another country and moved here UK around 10 years ago. As this was his work phone, it was really weird, so I clicked on it. It opened into a 5-day streak chat with this woman, with seriously crude texts, photos of both of them, not the face, and them planning to meet up when he goes back, dates, time, locations, and everything. She was even planning on taking a sick day from work. One of his pics was in our bed, with me in the house. He is booked to go back for a few weeks at the end of Nov. To see a very sick relative, I paid for his flights, so he could see them before they passed. I had a panic attack, and he walked out of the shower to see me hyperventilating. I asked him why and how he could. He said it was only talking, and that he'd been feeling neglected recently. I asked how, and he said work was stressful, and that he just wanted someone who wanted him for him, and that he doesn't feel like he's ever enough for me. I had no idea. He hasn't mentioned anything, and nothing has changed. A few years ago, I think 3-4 years ago, when we first moved into our house, he shared that he sometimes didn't feel enough for me. We went to counseling and worked through it. A major effort was made on both of our sides to get through it, and I thought we had. The thing is, I know I can be hard work. I'm closer to type A than type B. I'm pretty successful career-wise and not massively touchy-feely. But I'm not closed off and have never given a SHT about his job or anything like that. I even supported him for 2 years when he took a career break to try and become an actor. FFS, he hasn't even paid towards the mortgage in 4 years, as I didn't want him to feel dependent on me. Stretch his pay too thin. I don't know why I'm posting or what I expect from this. I just don't know what to do. I've kicked him out for now, but there are major logistics to deal with as I work away, and we have 2 dogs. How do I navigate this? I absolutely consider this as cheating. How can I make sure I don't let myself forgive him? He's been my life for almost 10 years. I've supported him in every way. Can I end it for a week of messages? How can I not end it after that? Sorry for all the questions, and I know this post will sit unanswered in the millions of other I'm so surprised he cheated stories. But within 24 hours my happy, hard-earned life is in flames, and I'm staring at the wreckage. Comments. Comment 1. I would cancel his flight ticket for sure. He is feeling down, but not doing anything about it. He is planning to F someone else because his ego was stroked. What about your love and devotion? Yeah, it is difficult, but you can do it. And even if you don't divorce him, think about the fact that he actually needs to prove that he is sorry about what he did, and not because he was caught. If there is no explanation, the trust will not go back to what it was. It happened to me with my husband. Even now, after 7 years, I don't know why he cheated. I don't trust him, and we regularly argue about anything. Comment 2. I'd cancel the return flight. Comment 3. And his hotel. Comment 4. I know you love him. You must love him, given everything you are doing for your relationship. But I personally feel that your relationship is one-sided, and that you are a building block or a mother to him, rather than a life partner, and that there is something fundamentally wrong with him. He is insecure. He has always been insecure. He's never lived up to his potential, and that's why he feels he will never be good enough for you. You will never understand it because you're thinking, you are good enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But there's a deep issue in his psyche that takes years of intensive therapy to overcome. Plus, the way he has gone about cheating is so strategic, calculated, and borderline sociopathic, given that his friend is so sick. And this is where his mind is. Leave him. Don't ever go back. Figure out the logistics with your dogs and life situation. Book the therapy sessions, and don't ever let him come back in. Let him be where he wants to be. You are young and smart, and have a lot going for you. The last thing you need is a grown man-child that disrespects you and steals from your joy. Comment 5. It's cheaper to pay a dog sitter than subsidize a worthless man. Update. Hi everyone, almost 5 weeks later. And after how helpful so many of you have been, I wanted to give you an update. To start it off, many of you said that he'd been cheating for longer or had done so before. You were right. I originally believed that he'd been cheating for a week, but due to a particularly noticeable carpet in the hotel room, where one of the DCK pics was taken. I found out it had been going on for at least a month. He, of course, denied it and lied when confronted. But that month included our 9-year anniversary and countless other events, so it was really useful to stop me blaming myself. He's still adamant that it's never happened before, and I do believe him. But that didn't stop me from taking an STI test just in case. All clean, thank goodness. He also admitted to lying about them having a previous relationship, and I caught him in another lie about Snapchat messages, so he stayed true to form. Since I kicked him out, we've only spoken twice. He left the dogs, so I guess they're my dogs now, and wants a percentage of my house. I can't speak for other countries, but in the UK, marriage for enough years entitles you to half of everything, regardless of who contributed what. Under advice from a lawyer, we're staying amicable, so he only takes the agreed amount and leaves my pension, savings, etc. alone. On the dogs, I've got a load more dog sitters, and I've agreed to let them stay with him while I'm away with work as long as he covers most of their costs. Outside of this, I did the usual. Changed the locks, cancelled his flights, threw out all his stuff on bin day, and had a full-blown breakdown as a crying drunk for a solid 7 days. I have great friends who are supportive, but he's the only family I have/had, so I have started seeing a therapist as well to help process and move forward. I'm taking this as an opportunity for a full reset and evaluation of what I want. So I'm trying to move jobs, sell my house to move closer to friends, and get a load of dental work that I've been putting off. Throw in some injured dogs, and it's turned out to be a truly horrific month. Honestly, it's really sucked, but I'm rebuilding my life to be something I choose, and it's getting easier week by week. Thank you also so much for your help and comments when I first posted. Seeing the overwhelming support and brutal comments against both him and me put it into perspective, and was enough to convince me that I wasn't crazy or overthinking this. I'm massively grateful for the dose of reality. And don't worry to all of you who called me a doormat, thanks for that. I won't be taking him back or allowing anyone else to take advantage of me like that again. May the force be with you, random Reddit strangers, and thank you again. Comments. Comment 1. You are actively doing something many people are incapable of, throwing a big alt middle finger to the sunken cost fallacy, and restarting your life with the mission to seek out that which you deserve. Peace, kindness, and loyalty. And for that, I applaud you. You're a badass, OP, and I'll be right over here in this tiny corner of the internet cheering you on. Comment 2. Reset, what a great word for it. I always use these words: renew, recreate, or new beginnings. They all mean to give yourself a second chance at realizing a new life full of possibilities, joy, happiness, and legacy. To live the dreams you gave up for marriage. To dream again. I just wish that more BS would have the courage to take the steps you have, and not be abused by someone who is a proven cheater and adulterer. It is very hard and painful, that decision. It will only last for a short season. My decision to move on and forward was over 40+ years ago, and I thank God that I made it. Not one regret. If you read these subs, you'll find almost no one regrets leaving a cheater. Many regret staying. Blessings, strength, and peace to you. Comment 3. I'm so curious. How has this been for him? And how did he react? Was he sad? Trying to make it right? Heartbroken? Without remorse? OP, very, very sad. He spent the first few weeks feeling really sorry for himself and in shock. He's stopped blaming anything except himself, I think due to the therapist, and is going down the route of saying it was self-sabotage/depression, and he needs to work on himself for a bit. This may all be very true, and TBH, I kinda think it is. But he hasn't tried to reconcile, or even made much of an effort to fight. No begging to chat or turning up. No suggestion of couples counseling, etc. He just kind of rolled over, and has been licking his wounds. Comment 4. Can he still get half the house, even though he hasn't contributed anything in 4 years? OP, yeah. It's a law I generally agree with to protect stay-at-home parents. Apparently the law doesn't differentiate between that and someone who wanted to try acting. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.